Oh, wow. The debates. We're just watching those exciting debates. Oh, watching centrists. It was great.
We needed to caffeinate.
Oh, boy.
We totally needed to caffeinate.
We went tea, and this cup just happened to be the one that was they had here at All Things Comedy, and that's the one I went with. We're at the All Things Comedy World Headquarters, ladies and gentlemen, in Burbank, California. This debate was really close to where I actually live, so I drove 25 miles out of the way to do this live stream because I wouldn't want to be too close because I'm afraid there's a cloud of centrism hanging over the beach where I live.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's going to turn me into a centrist saying really exciting things like, these plans aren't realistic. Isn't that was exciting? It was such exciting. It was like,
it was so exciting. Oh. PBS stands for perpetually boring, shitty broadcasting.
Yes.
That's what it stands for. I wish we could live in a country where debates that boring could be justified because things are going so well.
Yes.
Like, I wish we lived in that country. I wish it was like, hey, how was the debate? I don't know. It was Stick in the Mud Magoo versus Wet Blanket McGee, but no one cares because things are going great. Everyone's happy. But no, we live amidst catastrophe. And there was a bunch of talk about nothing they didn't make the 3 hours.
No.
They had to cut it short because it sucked so hard.
So boring.
They're like, we can't give CPR to this anymore. We're putting it out of its misery.
If there were 7, like that was the actual general election, and there were 7 parties represented, and they were all just debating the subtle nuances of how great our society was, I would be like, well, that'd be fantastic.
Right?
Like, where do we send the surplus of money? Nobody's unemployed. How do we deal with this?
The biggest issue affecting our country right now is that Mrs. Robinson is bored. We need to find shit for her to do. By the way, I don't think there is no reason, and I tweeted this, there is no reason for torture or enhanced interrogation techniques in this country ever again. 1, because it's immoral and completely unjustifiable. And 2, because all you need to do is lock somebody in a room and force them to have a conversation with Amy Klobuchar and Tom Steyer. They will tell you whatever you want. Just let them out of there. That was the most boring. Amy Klobuchar is like if an HR meeting was a person. Like, it's unbelievable how boring she is. And Tom Steyer is proof. Money cannot buy everything. You know, one thing it can't buy, a personality.
No, it can't.
Apparently, it can't buy that.
And there's no, like, Mayor Pete is the most boring, centrist. I mean, you've got literally the debates tonight. I felt like I was watching, tonight's debates are Bernie versus a bunch of Republicans.
Versus everybody and the moderators.
Yeah.
Again. That was the debate. People, by the way, we got to mention this. I've never seen anybody bomb at humor harder than Pete Buttigieg.
Oh my God,
every
he's
attempt
unfunny.
he had. Like, he just doesn't. I mean, usually politicians can deliver a joke. That's kind of part of the gig.
You speak for a living.
You speak, exactly,
yes.
Exactly. He was like, I mean, it was bad. All of his jokes bombed harder than he wants to bomb Mexico. I mean, they just bombed. They were not funny at all.
I don't know what I was more excited about is watching all of Bernie's platforms come out in this watered down version from Liz Warren. Mm-hmm. As I said, I think Bernie should say he wants to outlaw cats just to see if she'll repeat it. You should just start making crazy policy things just because she'll just start.
And then she'll get confused.
Yeah.
They'll ask her, they'll be like, so do you want to outlaw cats? And she'll be like, yes. Wait, no. Wait, I have to look into it. I have to ask somebody. What did Bernie do?
What I did love is they all went after Mayor Pete. That was fantastic.
Yeah. You know what I tweeted? I was like, you know what? If Amy Klobuchar dunks on you, it's time for you to be Buddha gone. All right? You're done.
It's so...
Amy Klobuchar dunks on you.
I just like...
Her closing statement was, I want to debate Trump because compared to him, I actually look reasonable. And my grandfather was a cool guy. That was her closing statement. And
she kept with the like... she saw Liz Warren get a big round of applause with some like, when the first female, she's made and that got a big applause.
That was actually a good line though. I will give that to Liz Warren. That was a good rebuttal because they were hitting on age pretty hard.
Yes.
And they said something like, well, you'd be the oldest. And then Liz Warren was like, I'd also be the youngest woman.
Yeah, ever.
That was a good line, man. It
was a great line.
I got to tip my hat to her for that. That was a good line. Perfect timing. Got a big laugh, and it deserved one. That was well done.
It was a really good line. So Klobuchar in her closing statement was trying to get one of those. And she was like, and she's like, when we debate, and there will be a female debating Trump, and there was just like her and Mayor Pete would
They're like,
be
the time's up, man. That was already, Warren nailed that one.
Klobuchar Buttigieg, sleeping pill 2020.
Oh yeah, big time with some Steyer in there.
Oh God, they're so.
You don't need an Ambien prescription if you're just like friends with the three of them and have them over at any point.
Even Yang, climate change, his solution is move everybody to higher ground and give them $1,000, right?
No, he was like, I want to move everybody to higher ground, literally and figuratively, which I was like, is he implying he wants to decriminalize shrooms? Because I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
Is that what he meant?
What
does he mean figuratively?
Nobody... I've said this time and time again, but Ron, name all of those amazing centrists throughout history. Can you name some for me? Can you name that amazing time that centrist saved us from a really difficult, challenging time? Remember when FDR went...
Well, Bill Clinton saved us from choices on the radio. I mean, before him, there was all kinds of stuff to listen to.
Yeah.
And there were local personalities. You had to find out who they were, see if you wanted to listen to them or not. And then in 1996, he's like, well, that's unsafe for people while they're driving. We need 6 companies to own all of radio, and we just need to play the same stuff. And it should be Rush Limbaugh. So Clinton helped us there.
Well, that's... That panel of people, with the exception of Bernie, and Warren just repeats what he says, but she's just she was a Republican and now she isn't, and she's not going to take corporate money, now she does. She just says whatever Bernie.
She found out what selfies were 3 weeks ago, and she can't get over it. I think that's what happened. A couple weeks ago, she found out what that was.
Yeah.
And she mentioned it 100 times. And then Biden did it. He's like, I take selfies too. They're both so...
She's like, I've taken over 100,000 selfies. I wanted to go, hey, Warren, do you know... Everyone takes you and I have taken thousands of... They were
so fascinated. Dude, my grandmother, rest in power grandma, she turned 100 years old a couple years ago, made it to 101. Mm-hmm. When she turned 100 at her birthday, we took her first selfie together. It was me and her. I was like, Grandma, it's your first selfie. And we did it. And I explained, and she got it pretty quick. She was just like, oh, okay, neat. She was over it, it was. She was less fascinated than Biden and Warren were. She was 100 years old.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I get it now. That's not. Yeah, I know phones can do crazy stuff.
Nobody took a selfie with Warren until she started running for president.
Apparently, when she told her what they were doing.
Right.
She's like, what's this button you're pushing? Is this?
Are you holding up a makeup case?
When you push this button, does it donate to my campaign? No, we're taking a picture, and you can... It's called a selfie.
Oh, God. It was
amazing.
It was just...
First time she saw a selfie stick, she thought it was a cane. She's like, what's wrong with these kids? Why are they...
Well, in October of 17, nobody was taking selfies with her when she gave Trump an extra $80 billion for his war budget. So I think things have sort of changed for her maybe a little bit now.
Right.
They think she's a progressive that's actually going to do something other than just sell people out because she's watching her and Buttigieg fight over who's a bigger sellout. Calling him out for the wine cave thing was fantastic.
That
was beautiful. And then he calls her out, which is great because they're both sellouts.
Yeah.
It's like two rival drug dealers going, your heroin kills people. Whoa, wait a minute, your crystal meth kills people.
And then Bernie, to his credit, because at first I was like, Bernie!
I know.
But he jumped in at the right time.
I know.
He was just like, let it go a little bit. Let it ride. All right, now.
Yeah.
And he nailed that pretty good. He had one fumble. He did have one fumble when they asked him about race, and he said climate change. He had a good answer overall. He recovered very well, but he they jumped on him right away and used it against him, and he's got to know they're going after him, man. And
I know.
He's got to know how to prevent situations like that.
Yeah, because they're asking him a direct question about race, and his long form answer was a legitimate one. He should have said, when you talk about race, communities of color are the ones affected by climate change the most, and we can't skip over that.
Right.
That's how he did it. Instead, he started doing he went back into...
He's like, well, I want to go to climate change. And like, well, this is about... That's not... He can't...
He looked like he was avoiding.
Exactly. And people are just going to remember that first part.
Sure. And that's all they're going to show. That's all the corporate media is going to show.
That's all they're going to show. Did the moderator jump on him? Yes. Was it unfair? Yeah, but I'm sorry. He knows the moderators are against him. He's got to be prepared for that. That was the one fumble I think he had.
It was one of, and we went to a break, and this panel of PBS people talked about everyone but Bernie at the break.
Yeah.
And they're like, Klobuchar's upticking in Iowa. Bernie's leading in Iowa. He's leading in New Hampshire. He's leading all over the place, and they refuse to talk about it. And it's like, when they're arguing over wine cellars and corporate money, I'm glad Bernie jumped in and goes, I get the most individual donors.
Yeah.
And he made that point several times.
Oh, and it was whenever somebody was calling out Pete Buttigieg, the look on his face was so epic. When Bernie called him out for the amount of billionaires he had, he looked like a teenager who just got caught masturbating by his parents. It was beautiful.
He's like,
it was beautiful.
Joe's got 44. You got 39. You better catch up. You seem like a competitive young man. Like, it was fucking...
It was epic.
It was gold. And like, and then when they're arguing and Klobuchar does this, guys, which is like it is such an annoying... When there's an argument...
Well, she's an annoying person.
Oh, God, she's
everything
annoying.
about her is just painfully boring and annoying. And... Buttigieg, what was the other thing? Oh, I love how they brought up, speaking of Pete Buttigieg bombing at humor, they brought up Obama, where, Obama shit on Bernie, saying like old white men are the big problem, blah, blah, blah. And you know how where they were really going with that question. They were like, hey, Obama shit on you a bunch, Bernie.
Biden even admitted it. He goes, I know that question wasn't directed at me.
Exactly. And then Buttigieg, his attempt at humor, which, by the way, I thought Bernie had a good answer to that. Buttigieg's attempt at humor was he was like, oh, I think that might have been directed at me. No, I'm the young guy. And it bombed. It did not get one laugh.
No,
because it wasn't that funny. And also his delivery, he's a weird guy, man. Like he's kind of like, he gives off a weird energy.
You want to talk about, he gives off a weird energy.
Like he's kind of just creepy.
He's a creepy, weird dude. And well, because he's getting eaten alive on social media, and these PBS people don't bring up the McKinsey thing. Mm-hmm. They don't bring up the lying about black supporters. They don't bring up any of that stuff. I mean, the wine cellar thing, I'm glad that got brought up.
Yeah,
but
that was beautiful.
But they
don't bring up the fact that apparently he tried to he gets a bunch of donor money from people who are trying to keep a bunch of tapes that incriminate the South Bend police force, where they were trying to get his donors to get him to fire a black chief. Allegedly, they're still looking into that. Wow. But yeah, apparently he's taking money there because he just gave money back from a Chicago person that was doing something similar. He's like, I don't want your money, which was the right thing to do. He did the right thing there. But now they're saying, yeah, but then there's these people in South Bend, similar corruption, and he's still in bed with those people.
Man, and then it's just... This centrism, here's what's happened in America. Because we've had this 4 decades long corporate coup, and the corporations have bought everything. The Koch brothers donated to PBS. So PBS isn't this like, that's why they were like, they spent 7 minutes on climate change. And then, they're for war. Of course, now we're going after China. We're going to talk about that in a second. But, so you've got these boring corporate centrists, because that's the corporate culture. The corporate culture isn't bold. It's get it to the next quarter, get the stock price up. Don't stick your head out too much because you'll lose your job. Mm-hmm. Like, that is the corporate culture. And that's why Bernie's the only one with bold plans. Tulsi has bold plans, but she was not she decided not to come on the stage. We'll talk about that in a second. But she was missed. We missed her just throwing haymakers at people. Like when
I think people did a good job on Buttigieg. Yeah. Had she been there too, it would have been lights out.
I know.
I mean, getting her to she would have just delivered the KO, you know?
Well, they can't have her there because she KO'd Kamala. Kamala's out of the race because of Tulsi, which is great.
Yang misses her, apparently.
Yeah.
Yang misses Kamala and he misses Corey. I like that.
Nobody mentions Tulsi when they're missing the minorities.
Apparently, Yang and Tulsi are tight, I thought they were tight. He didn't mention her, but
they didn't mention Castro, who's also Latino. They didn't mention him. They just mentioned the two.
They just mentioned Kamala and Cory Booker. And you know, it's funny, when Andrew Yang mentioned Booker, it was like he wanted an applause from the audience. Like that was a moment of like kind of solidarity, like, oh, you know, applaud my colleague. And there was a brief moment of silence. And I think it was because the audience was looking around going, who is that?
Right.
Like, I think they didn't know who he was for a split second. Because keep in mind, the only policy Cory Booker has ever really stood up for was changing the rules of the debate so he can get back onto a debate and say nothing for a while.
I know.
That's the only time he ever stood up for anything.
But that's why this, like, they have, like, Klobuchar said, look, we need we need to be progressive and practical. Oh, God, yes, that's how Susan B. Anthony got women the right to vote, by being pragmatic, right? That's how we put a man on the moon. That's how we defeated Hitler. That's how we ended the Depression, all of that. MLK was like, we need to be pragmatic.
So let's be slow.
Let's be slow. Pragmatic. Let's not take over a whole bridge in Selma, Alabama. Let's not do that. No. Let's not encourage strikes.
Let's just stand on this hill, see what happens.
Yeah, get a permit and be out of the way of traffic and not bother anybody, I think is what MLK was all about.
Exactly. That was his thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, keep in mind Amy Klobuchar's riveting endorsement from Bill Maher, where he's like, I think we just need someone kind of whatever, doesn't ruffle any feathers, middle of the road. I'm eyeing Amy Klobuchar.
Well, let's talk about Klobuchar for a second, because back in October, she said that she would not pardon Julian Assange.
Oh, did she say that?
Yeah, and then tonight she was
I'd imagine she would get that one wrong. I mean,
of course. But then tonight she's all about press freedom. So she's talking about press freedom, and it's like, no, you said that you would not pardon Julian Assange. Somebody asked her point blank, would you pardon Julian Assange? She goes, nope.
Well, her definition of press freedom is, you know, in a White House press briefing, everybo's very nice to CNN.
Yeah,
that's press freedom.
That's press freedom
to her. Like, be nice. Don't be mean to CNN.
She won't throw a stapler at him.
Right.
That's press freedom.
At least not if the cameras are on.
She won't throw a stapler at
If she doesn't want to answer a question, she'll tell you a really boring story about her grandfather.
Yeah.
Why does she seem like she always just woke up from a nap?
You know, it sounds like
she always, like, it's like she just woke. She's like, you know, you gotta do. Like, she just sounds like. She sounds tired. Like, she's just sleepy.
Yeah, and this debate was the first time she didn't sound like she was about to start crying. Usually she's so nervous.
Liz Warren started crying for no reason.
Oh, God, that was so contrived.
About the selfies.
Liz Warren was trying to get it like, look, I care. She was so trying to fake cry.
I take so many selfies, my eyes are watery. Some of them, the flash is on.
She took 100,000. You know how I know that, Ron? She mentioned it 15 times. That's how I know she took 100,000 selfies.
She won't stop mentioning it until she mentions it 100,000 times. That's how she's going to go full circle with it.